Well, I'm being too nice to Iranis because, okay, let me be as strict and factual as possible. So, on Japan and China, I would consider myself an expert. And I know Korea pretty well, especially the economic history and political history. But there, I want to do a little bit more. Russia is kind of like back and forth. I do know Russian a little bit now, so I can start getting into the text. And I've read about Russia in many aspects for a long time. Tons of stuff from the Cold War, tons of stuff on the Russian side. However, I would be more comfortable saying I'm like a genuine expert on American history, Latin American history, European history, and even now a lot of Asian history. But Russia is always a little difficult to pin down. Also, there's debates. Is that European history? Is it Central Asian? Yeah, even classifying Russia is a little bit of a debate. But I do think I know a lot. And here I'm going to be nice and say it's a question mark. So the big headline with Aaron is, oh, they banned Scientology. From my understanding, it's not been banned. What has happened is basically most of the official church. But to be careful here between the rare cases, but it does happen. People just study Scientology for whatever reason. They read L. Ron Hubbard, yada, yada, yada. They want to do the Scientology. But obviously, we're talking about the official church. So let's be at least fair to Aaron. So is it fair to say it was banned? No, I don't think it's banned. But is it to put it mildly in a really difficult position? Yeah, but that's been true for a decade. Like, this is nothing to even write about or do a YouTube video about because this Scientology is in a very difficult place with Russia. This is more about mocking Aaron, but his level of ignorance never ceases to stop or astonishing me. But still, it's like, because he's like, "Are you really sure?" Because I've read some articles. So apparently, because Aaron didn't want to do more research than what 2 Wikipedia articles, he's like, "I don't really know. Now I'm confident." Well, yeah, I mean, to be considered a real Russian expert, usually yes, you do have to know Russian. That's a big one. I got to make money too. So for the channel members, I usually go a little bit more in depth. I already got this thing recorded for a long while where I'm not joking because I got this so many times. I'm accused of being an OSA spy. But the guy who did it was really out there, so I'm going to make fun of that guy. So I'll do that for channel members. But I actually do know a lot about real Russian history. But yeah, usually you want to have a basal knowledge of the language so you can read the documents for yourself and do a lot of double checking. But Mali, Russian history is filled with so many swerves and revisions. It's a little hard. Well, let's get to the beef, as they say. And why do I have alarm bells that Aaron is either lying to us or being radically misinformed? And to be fair, I don't think he cares. This is just clickbait nonsense. But he's calling the FSB. I don't think he knows what the FSB is. So he's like, yeah, the FSB, yeah, they're raiding the Scientology. So, oh, yeah, good stuff. This nutcase can't do even basic stuff. So let me be very clear on this. And again, I want to double check a few things. Is I know this for the last 20 years. And these organizations do change, so you have to be careful. Because people, and by the way, this is a more normal thing. People still think even the Soviet Union is still, no, the Soviet Union was dissolved. Anyway, so a lot of people Americans don't seem to know anything about Russia. Uh, well, there's no nice way of putting it. There's no more KGB in Russia anymore. The KGB, as a dreadful institution, was technically dissolved. However, it was then reorganized, you guessed it, as the FSB. And, and this is more about Aaron's fans in the comment section. Like, he has now attracted so many idiots. It's insane what they put in the comments. They just put things that are factually false or just, that is a wild interpretation. So some people are like, yeah, the FSB, it's like kind of like the FBI. Listen, let me be very clear. I don't trust the CIA. I don't trust the FBI. I don't trust the DA, the ATF, yada, yada, yada. I'm very fearful of most government institutions, especially American ones. Homeland Security, these are all very suspicious. None of this is in the Constitution. These are unconstitutional bodies that were inflicted upon us by just fiat. They do not exist in the law, technically. They are just there due to executive power, which is very dangerous. But that's my short spiel on our rights being taken away. Even I would have to admit the FBI, which on the record has been guilty of spying, right, imprisoning, and even exiling American citizens. Yeah, the FBI is pretty evil. Even in their history, they're a pretty evil organization. It is not the equivalent of the CIA. These are not identical bodies. They have their own norms, their own organizations. They follow different rules and laws. Again, is it fictional? Yeah, at the end of the day, the FBI does serve the president. At the end of the day, yes, the CIA does serve the president. These are just instruments of the state. However, there are differences. With Russia and Russian culture, they don't have that, right? And good or bad, yeah, it's still mainly bad. But for instance, with Scientology, if a crime is committed in the US, I would tell you, reluctantly, go to the FBI. They are technically the official body that would handle those kind of cases. So if Scientology has harmed you or you think there's a credible threat, go to the FBI. Do I like the FBI? No. Do I trust them? No. Will anything even happen? Probably. No, not really. They're taking tons of money from the Scientology people. Guys, wake up and smell the coffee. The CIA, the FBI, they're all getting money from Scientology. Okay, stop living in a dream world. So the chance of anything really happening criminally against Scientology is like zero. But it is what it is. This is what we have. That is the official body you should go to. At least have a record. I mean, it's nothing, but put it on the record. It is what it is. The Russian state doesn't really have that, especially under Putin. I mean, what do they even have Russia? I guess you'd have to say it's basically a kleptocracy. It is basically Putin and his family, as well as a few friends, and they basically control most of the country. I'm not exaggerating. I've done real research on this. I've read a few biographies on him. Not all of them hostile, and it's really fascinating stuff. They are very critical of Putin, but some of them are like more neutral, and they're like, yeah, it is basically an authoritarian mafia. They're not making fun of them. This is not polemical. They're like, that's basically what it is. The mafia, Putin, because Putin has basically a KGB background. He's a KGB spy. And basically they just control the country. It is basically these large corporations that on paper are independent, but basically they're extensions of his family and his friends. And it's even Putin, like the corruption has gotten so bad, he keeps trying to put his own people in jail or sanctioning them. And this has become a big whirligig because it's like every time I punish people and get rid of people or sanction people, I just get new people. They're just as corrupt. It just doesn't seem to stop because that's what it is. So it's very corrupt, kind of authoritarian regime. So even under the best of circumstances, even if the FSB, let's be fair to Aaron, tried to functionally operate like the FBI, it wouldn't even work in principle. It just doesn't make sense. So even calling it the FBI makes it sound more fancy or intellectual or professional than it is. FBI is only slightly better than Putin, but there are some good FBI people. They honestly do want to apply the law, and they get disillusioned, and they say like, wow, this thing is radically corrupt. And they do resign saying, yeah, we're clearly not following our own laws. We're not following our own rules. This thing's a joke. They don't have that in Russia. Like, it is really blatantly clear it's a corrupt organization. So I may lose 1 or 2 subscribers on this, but do I agree with what? No, they are violating the law. Now, good or bad, as an organization, like it or not, Scientology does have rights. So they're blatantly violating the rights of these people. Now, should Putin do this? Well, technically, yes. I mean, it's a dangerous organization. I mean, it's a dangerous neo-fascist organization. It is hilarious that basically that's what Putin is. He's a neo-fascist. So the neo-fascist is cracking down on a neo-fascist organization. The problem here is Putin isn't doing it for the right reasons. So, yes, now the state is hostile. But tomorrow the state could be very friendly to Scientology. Is that following the rules? No. So it's just very arbitrary. So I don't think that's a good idea. It's very dictatorial, and I don't like dictators as a rule. Putin is a really weird case. He is kind of this weird elected authoritarian, but it is basically a dictatorship. I mean, it's a weird kind of dictatorship, but there we are. So I don't agree with this decision. I don't think this is a good idea. So why is Putin so hostile to Scientology? I honestly don't know, because he likes money. He doesn't mind being corrupt. He doesn't mind getting bribes. And there are a lot of rich Scientologists, even rich Scientologists in Russia. So I'm not quite clear, but just to finish up, no, Aaron's getting it wrong. It's not literally banned. Can you be a Scientologist in Russia? Yes. Can you be even a Scientologist in Russia in the official church? You can, but you're going to be monitored. And they may put you in jail for the wrong reasons, but yeah, they will probably confiscate your material, put you in jail, and ban you. So it is functionally banned. I mean, for all intents and purposes, it's been reduced to nothing. But even before the raids, I mean, you know how big Russia is? You know how massive the population is? Like, Scientologists aren't even going to make 1% of the population. This is just a nothing story. That said, they are evil, they are dangerous, and they have, in fact, victimized a lot of Russian immigrants. It's a pipeline to get them to the U.S. This is really the real scandal. It's not that they want to be be a power in Russia. That's never going to happen. But yes, they do have to have nominal representation because they're trying to trick people, Russian people, to come to the U.S. But Putin's not stupid. He's well aware of this. So if this pipeline is there, it's because he wants it. So what they're really doing is just saying, okay, fine. You want to do whatever you want to do in America, but you got to leave us alone. I would interpret this for what it is. Putin's being cynical. I don't think even he's anti-Scientology. He's just like, well, I don't trust these people, so we're going to crack down on them, but I don't think he particularly cares. So to me, it's just propaganda nonsense on all sides. But I am puzzled, given that there are these rich Scientologists, why don't they just bribe Putin to, be more tolerant? I don't know. But it could just be, because this is a propaganda dude. He's going real hardcore. Hey, I love the church. I love Christianity. He grew up an atheist. so it could just be what it is, just a photo op. It just makes him look good to the Russian population, because clearly the Russian people do not like Scientology. Now that I can read and understand Russian by myself, again, it's hard, but I can hear them for myself. Yeah, they don't like this stuff. I think it's all stupid. So for him, this is like a no-lose proposition, like beating up on the Scientologists. Not going to make him unpopular. Russian people like this. So I don't know. I guess that's enough for him to have better polling data. And it's like, yeah, we're just going to crack down on the Scientologists for photo ops, and that's it. But he's not really ideologically opposed to it. He doesn't even know what it is. He's just even like, all right, we don't like it. That's it. That's enough. Is there anything really to report on here? Not really. It's been hostile towards Scientology for a while. But I guess Aaron is slow news day. He's got to put out something. And there we are. Aaron in Russia. There's more here too, by the way, but I'll do more for channel members. There are aspects here that are really interesting, but the way Aaron's covering it is, as usual, a moron. And there we are with not in love with Scientology in Russia.